Hi everyone, this is Emma from Plan, Inspire, Create, and today I'm going to be talking about my experiences with digital project management using Clickup, Asana and Notion, and helping you decide which, if any, might be best for you. So stay tuned. So if you saw my video last week, you'll know that I've been in a major planner funk, and I talked about what I was struggling with in terms of using my planners, and I said that there was an aspect of digital planning that I'd been trying, which I would kind of cover in its own dedicated video. So this is that. Basically, for the last 18 months or so, I'd say, I have been experimenting on and off with digital planning for my business. I really am a paper planner at heart, and I use that for lots of different aspects of my planning. But in terms of my business and specifically project management, I wanted to experiment with digital tools that could perhaps speed up those workflows, streamline some things, and free me up to do more creative work rather than keep repeating the same things on paper. So that's what initially drew me to these tools. And I initially went to Notion. And I used this for some time. And to give you a quick overview of that, it's described very much as an all-in-one workspace. That's how Notion choose to describe it. You can combine project management with note-taking, with calendars, to-do lists, trackers. It's basically completely customizable, which is both a pro and a con. It's what initially ended up making me stray away from Notion, and spoiler alert, I'm actually going to be coming back, so stick with me on this. I'm not saying that Notion is all bad, but you have to customize it. And this is where perhaps there's a bit of a difference between Notion, which is a completely customizable tool, as opposed to Asana and Clickup, which are purely designed for project management. And if you're the type of person who wants to pick up something and just run with it straight out of the box, then I would say just straight away that something like Asana or Clickup might be better for you. If you're someone who wants to put the time into really setting something up and having a system that works perfectly for you and your business or your life, then it might be that Notion is for you, especially if you like having everything in one place. Now, I did probably half the work with Notion and then was frustrated as I was using it because it wasn't quite working for me how I wanted it to. With hindsight, I think what I should have done is just taken that bit of extra time to get it set up, but I digress. I inevitably ended up switching to first Asana and then Clickup, and I want to talk you through my experiences with those first and then go a little bit more into detail about my experiences with Notion. And essentially, what's right for me isn't what's right for someone else. So throughout the video, I'm gonna kind of weigh up the pros and cons, and what might be a con for me might be a pro for you. So I hope you can get an idea of which of these tools might work best for you, even if it didn't necessarily for me. So with Asana and Clickup, which are two different options, and I'll be showing you the software itself, they are designed as project management systems. That's what they're designed to do. They're not designed to be as open-ended as something like Notion. So I saw other people using Asana, and that was the one I was initially drawn to. And I was tempted by the fact that it seemed very simple to use. There wasn't that open-endedness like with Notion. Out of the three I tried, Asana was the quickest to pick up and run with. It was very, very simple and streamlined, which was great to pick up and run with. However, it does have the flip side of that, which is that it isn't as customizable as the other two. It doesn't, in my opinion, have as many features, and yeah, you can't really quite tweak it as much as I would like. There are similarities in both of the softwares, so I'm going to show you them in Asana first. For both Asana and Clickup, there is a desktop app that you can download, as well as using it in the browser. For all three of these, I have only ever used the free plan. I wanted to see what you could achieve on those free plans. I did toy with the idea of paying for one of the subscriptions. However, you'll know that those subscriptions can keep adding up, and whilst it might seem like £3 here, £5 there, before you know it, it adds up to a lot. And to be honest, the three of them, the features that they have on the free versions are great. I don't necessarily see a need, if you're using it for personal or small business use for you to pay for the features, but that's just me. There might be features that you need, but I felt very much like I could get away with just using the free features. Okay, so this is Asana. This is what your dashboard will look like. You can see everything for me is in overdue because I haven't been using it because it was the first one I tried. So with each of the systems, I'd say you have to kind of learn their lingo and their hierarchy for things, and I'll pop some little graphics up on the screen to help with this. So for Asana, you have at the top what is your company or organization, and what that then allows you to do is set up teams under your organization. Now, how I used this was to essentially have teams be the different areas of my business. So you can see down the side, I've got these set up. So I've got a business admin area, Patreon, YouTube, my shop, content creation, and then I've got a personal section in there. Then underneath your teams, you have projects. So under business admin, we've got, for example, just a general admin section where it's literally as simple as a to-do list. If we switch to something like YouTube, we have a project called My Videos, and I've got this set up in a board view here I set up this process on Asana so that the different columns I can drag videos across. So these are my list of ideas, for example. So I've got October's plan with me here, and I would move it across when I'm filming it, when I'm editing it. If you open this, you can see that this is where you kind of you break down the individual tasks. So up here, you've got who you assign it to, you've got a due date in here, you've got the projects, and then these are those kind of the status of the video that I set up. You can add in other things I didn't really. You can add in descriptions and things, notes, and you can also add a list of subtasks. And then you can tick those off as you've done it. Sometimes you get a nice unicorn, that's a lovely touch. So this is what this looks like. And you can see across the top here, these are the different views, and it's similar in Asana and Clickup that you can have these different views, which is really, really useful. You can have it as a list. So I'd have a list of ideas here. Again, it's split by those statuses, so you could choose to set this up however you wanted. List of things that you're filming, a list of things you're editing, etc. The board view, which I already showed you, which if anyone's ever used Trello before, or I did a video on a physical Kanban board, this is very much like that. The other view I haven't shown you is calendar. The Patreon area was one that I used a lot. So I had these different sections split up by basically my rewards on Patreon. And then on the calendar, it was much more populated in terms of when things were due to be released to my patrons, when I would be actually doing them. With the shop update, I had a very simple Kanban board with things to do. So it might be that for some things like my content calendar, the calendar view works great. For something like a shop update, just having kind of to do in progress complete was easy for me to see, or simply as a to-do list. So without going into too much detail about the individual software, but obviously I want to show you a bit about how it works before I go into the pros and cons so that you can see it. This worked particularly well for me. Another couple of features that I like is it has this kind of dashboard, which is the home area. You can easily go to your different projects from there. It shows you what your priorities are because you can see what's overdue, what's upcoming. Obviously, we haven't got any upcoming tasks because I haven't been using it. Other people from your team, if that's something you need. And then this My Tasks area is something that I was using a lot. And if I flick back, I had it on a weekly view. You can just have Monday to Friday if you want, but I do quite like working a Sunday. So for example, I dragged these around in that week and then had a kind of weekly work planner in here. That's kind of how I used it. The color coding is basically what I set up in here. So all my business admin projects were green. My Patreon's yellow. My YouTube videos are blue. Shop is pink. Other content is red, etc. So that's how it shows up in here. And I could essentially drag things around. If I didn't get round to something, I could then drag it on to the next week, and it'd probably be like a Monday priority. And these things will appear here when they're due. So I can flick through the next couple of weeks, for example. I can say, oh, I've got to film a plan with me on Monday. So this week, what I probably need to do on Friday is just make a plan for that. And I would add it in. You can quickly add it in here as a task, plan or prep for plan with me. As standard, it will then kind of float around just in your tasks. If you open it, you can then assign it to a project. My video is done. So that's a very, very quick whistle-stop tour of how Asana works. I quite liked that you could break it into tasks and subtasks, so you could break things down further. You know that I'm all about, if you've watched my videos, breaking things down into the individual action steps. Like I said, you can get to grips with it quite easily. It is a learning curve, but it is the easiest of the three to pick up and run with. With any of these, you are going to have to set aside that time to set it up and put all the information in and get it how you want it before it starts ticking over and things become streamlined. There is going to be that initial kind of learning curve and work process, but this was the simplest and quickest of the three. I should say that you can also integrate this with other apps such as Google Calendar, time trackers, things like that. I didn't dive too heavily into those other app integrations. So I then started hearing good things about Clickup. And one thing about me is I love trying new planning systems. So I started to get a little bit tempted to move across. I will say at this point, if you want a system to work for you in the long term, switching back and forth between different things obviously isn't optimum. You need to kind of pick one thing and stick with it for a period of time. However, I was tempted to go for Clickup because the things I was hearing about it was that it was like Asana, but it had more options available. So whilst Asana is the easiest to kind of pick up and go with, Clickup is more of a steeper learning curve, but if you're willing to put in that bit of extra time, then there is more functionality than that you can get out of it. So that is what tempted me to Clickup. So this is what Clickup looks like. This top section here, I did not really use. Then you have a favourites section, which I pinned my weekly to-do calendar, and I use this in much the same way. So, for example, tasks that are due on that day will appear up here at the top. Then if I want to drag them down into the timed calendar, I can. If it was a task with already a time on it, like whatever this is, schedule a live stream reminder, it would appear in my daily schedule. And I thought this was good if you wanted to then kind of do time blocking and think about, okay, how long is it going to take me to set up discount codes? If I start it at 10 o'clock, maybe it'll take an hour. Then I've got to write something for Patreon. Maybe that'll take me half an hour. I have a little break. I've got to write something else for Patreon, lovely, etc. So I would think about where things would go kind of in a timed setup. I thought that was quite useful in terms of jigging around how I might plan my week and thinking about how long the individual tasks actually take. I think that is a really useful functionality and kind of a really useful process to go through in terms of not over or underestimating how long it will take you to do certain tasks. So I liked that. Essentially, what I kind of called my weekly to do is actually this everything view. And this is something that I felt really set Clickup apart from Asana, was that I have things set up here in the same way. So I have different areas for my business. So I've got Patreon shop, content creation, admin, and personal. So I will show you those in a sec. But ultimately, you also have an everything view, which pulls everything together in one place. And again, you've got your views across the top. So you've got list, board, and calendar here. So however it most makes sense for you to have these tasks. For me, having everything together, the best thing is calendar. Maybe you want to look at the month, you want to see where there's any potential bottlenecks of things. It's useful, I feel, to be able to get a kind of big picture overview, zoom out, look at how much have I got going on this month, is it actually achievable, and then dive back into particular weeks or particular areas of your business, and then get down into like the nitty gritty and the detail. So that is something that I feel sets ClickUp apart. You definitely need to learn their lingo and their hierarchy of how things are broken down, which again is what I said with Asana. For me, this one was a bit more confusing to get my head around. At the very, very top, you have spaces, which I came to think of as like teams were on Asana. So that's essentially my Patreon, my shop, my content creation. That's what ClickUp calls spaces. I've got a little list here because I still find it hard to retain the terminology. But obviously you need to know, if I was to create a new space, what does that mean? There are some kind of built-in templates and things, and you can create your own. So that's good. You don't have to create everything from scratch. Underneath that, so under Patreon, for example, you then have folders. So the next two tiers are lists and folders, essentially, which is a bit confusing because lists is also obviously the name of a view. But essentially, you have lists, which are these things here. So for me, I use lists as I had a list for every type of Patreon reward. So sort of similar to how I did it in Asana, and then I put them all in a folder called Patreon Rewards, and then I could create another series of lists under here if I wanted to. For example, I have 3 folders under admin. I have my business coaching, a general admin section, and things I'm waiting for. You get the idea. That's how that breaks down. And then within those lists, if I go back to Patreon, so each of these is then a task, and then within that, you can have a set of subtasks, and you can even have subtasks under that. So you can drill down quite far. If I wanted to then add a subtask, I think it's this. So checklists. I never delved down this far, but in order to prepare for the podcast, I need to research theme. And then I've got like 1 completed, 2 still to go. We're going to go back here. Maybe we're going to close that. So we've got, you can see here that the Cozy Cafe podcast has 2 open subtasks within it. And then prepared to record also has a checklist. So you can see it kind of shows you have to get used to what the little symbols mean. So yeah, like I said, a bit more of a steeper learning curve. It's hard not to go down a tangent of just showing you like all the features, but that's essentially ClickUp in a nutshell. You've got your same boards, calendar views, etc. Ultimately, they're very, very similar, Asana and ClickUp. I think once you've got your head around ClickUp, it does have those extra bits of functionality. This everything view, I think, is really, really valuable in terms of kind of zooming out and looking at everything that's going on. I will say with Asana, on the topic of recurring tasks, you can set up recurring tasks in Asana, which is something that I was really kind of excited about. So for example, my Patreon rewards, I have the same rewards each month as standard, although the actual content of the reward will be different. The categories are kind of the same. So I have a goodie box every 2 months and everything else is every month. So you get your live stream, your video chat, your podcast, your vlog, your wallpapers, etc. So what I wanted to do was have that kind of recur in the calendar. You couldn't do, for example, first Wednesday of the month and things like that. I ended up having to set it to do 4 weeks later and then kind of tweak where it was. But the thing that I felt really let it down, and perhaps this would be different in a premium plan, is that it only shows in the calendar once you've done the one before. So when I tick that I've release the podcast, for example, that then triggers it to create a new one 4 weeks later. But for me, when I'm scrolling through what's coming up in future months and doing that longer term planning, I want to be able to see that. I want it in there already. I don't want it to wait until I've only just done the last one. And then let's say that's a little bit behind, but I'm still planning for next month. It gets a bit messy. I want things to be in there, but I kind of hoped that this would speed up the process of that. And something that I was trying to get away from was having to keep rewriting the same things. And then ultimately I felt like instead I was just retyping the same things. So I will say for me, that was a limitation I found in these two pieces of software. I think perhaps in the premium versions, they might be a bit different. I did try a free trial of Clickup Premium for that reason, to be able to explore the recurring tasks feature. I found it to be the same in terms of triggering future recurring tasks. And then it kind of irritated me that I'd paid for it and I still wasn't. Well, I hadn't, it was a free trial, but I would be paying for it and it was still not quite how I wanted it to be. This brings me to the journey back to Notion. So I enjoyed using these pieces of software. However, I am the kind of person who really does like things to be set up how I like them. I like to have things in one place because to me that is streamlined. It's as easy as it could possibly be. What I have been doing, for example, is I have a Word document template of the description and tags and title and everything for my videos, and I copy a new one every single time and then fill in the information. It would be nice if that was kind of housed in here, and I guess I could paste it into the comments section, for example, or attach a file, but then ultimately that's just an extra step of attaching the file, so it's there. I'm still working on it somewhere else. I missed being able to have everything in one place. A big example for me is kind of notes and lists. Things that will become projects, they will become part of projects, they may inform projects, they might just be ideas and things. I missed having those there, and I thought, okay, I can't do that in Asana or Clickup, so where am I going to put them? I need a system to house all that information. And then I thought to myself, I used to do that in Notion. Do I keep it in Notion? And then I thought, well, I might as well keep it in Notion because I've started it there. Otherwise, I'm just then looking for another new system for something else. And then I thought, well, if I'm already using Notion for my tasks and notes, and I really enjoy it for that, why am I not just using my project management software there as well? Why am I not just doing it all in one place? I kind of came to the conclusion that I was overcomplicating it for myself, and ultimately that I needed to invest the time in setting up my Notion, how it would make the most functional sense for me, and then it wouldn't be frustrating me how it did before. So I'm going to give some pros and cons of my experience with Notion and where I think I'm going to go with it. This is obviously, again, it's what I think will work best for me, but you might not want this level of kind of detail and complexity in your project planning, in which case Asana or ClickUp might be better for you. The great thing with Notion is it is completely open-ended. You can customize each page to look exactly how you want it. It is a very steep learning curve, in my opinion. When I first opened Notion and you hit that blank page, let me open it. I believe there is also a Notion desktop app, but I haven't downloaded it, so I'm going to look into that. So, for example, when you first open Notion and you start a blank page, this is what it looks like. And to me, that's not as intuitive. It's not as kind of pick up and go, ready out of the box as Asana and ClickUp. And it can feel a bit overwhelming. However, at this point with Notion having been around for a while now, there are so many good walkthroughs, tutorials, like other sources of inspiration out there, templates that other people have created that they will share with you, or that you either for free or that you can purchase if you want to go down that route, that I think it's much more easier now to get your head around Notion than it was when Notion first came out. It is a lot more kind of techie to set up in a sense, but I do think that If you follow some of the walkthroughs on YouTube, I know there's a really great YouTuber, Thomas Frank, that shows how to use Notion, and I'm already like loving his tutorials. I will put a little list in the description of tutorials that I've been inspired by so far if you want to dive into Notion a little bit more. Yeah, it's much, much easier now to get your head around it. And ultimately, you create the templates you want, and then once you have them, you have those templates moving forward. You don't have to keep recreating things. You can just duplicate the page, tweak it for whatever purpose, and so on. Something that I really, really love is that you're not restricted to one type of view per page. So in Clickup, for example, you know how I showed you, I don't know why my dog grooming task is open. You know how I showed you that you can see things as a list, you can see things as a board, you see things as a calendar. Well, in Notion, if I go to my old content planner, I am now working on redesigning this. This is how I used to work in Notion for my content creation, and I really, really loved it, and I don't know why I ever left. So, content calendar. Everything that's nested under here will automatically appear on this page, and you can choose where and how to display it. So I have a skinny little column down the side with some links. So these links go to like my YouTube channel, Instagram, TikTok, Pinterest, Etsy, and so on. So I can quickly access those whilst I'm planning content. I then have a little ideas section, and these are links to individual pages that are nested under here. So for example, if I click on video ideas, same with content ideas. And then for Patreon topics, for example, the great thing about these is that they all also open as individual pages. I created this table in here. So I have a bunch of topics and I tick where I've used them. So if I've spoke about it on a podcast, in a video, in a live stream, video call, if I've done a goodie box on that theme, so that I can make sure that I'm not duplicating. There's some I haven't got around to using at all yet. So you can like pop it out or open it as a full page. I then had my actual calendar in here. So you can see that I had kind of everything on this dashboard as like, an overview, like a glance of everything, and then I could kind of dive deeper into it. So you've got things planning multiple days here, like a group sale. You can see that I've set up this tag. I've set it so they show on the calendar so I can see what kind of content it is, and I've also color coded it. So I then have essentially the same information that's on this calendar shown as a table, and this is kind of where I would go to when I was working on things that were coming up. So it's ordered by the date that everything goes live. You can also open these. So for example, you can see this is a page on its own, that it's got more information in it. So if I open this, you can see that I have put some notes in here of what I want to talk about on the video call. So I've got my kind of script, as it were, as well as the kind of key information. The same with, if I go to a YouTube video, here you go. So this is if I open the page, this is an example of a template. And this is, again, something that I think is really, really great about Notion. So I paid for this template. It was from Michelle B. I will put the link down below. This is her YouTube kind of creation template. And I believe that I tweaked it a little bit from the original because you can edit templates. So I didn't use all of it for this, but title and description, your tags. This was research and notes. So I had all the products that I was going to talk about in this whole video, how much they cost, a link to them, ready to add it in the product description, and so that I could see more information as I was filming it. I guess for a standard video, what I would usually have is my talking points, like in the other one I showed you. There is a section here where you can write an actual script if you want. This section here, clips to film. The B-roll list is a list of shots that I want to film. I have location here. So is it something I'm filming at home, outside? Is it an overhead shot? Is it a screen recording like I'm doing now? Is it just a voiceover? Is it a clip that I need to get from a previous video? So that when I'm gathering everything together, I can kind of batch them and do them kind of like tasks together. So All of this kind of populates automatically within there, and that's something that I really miss. It's really helpful to have those prompts, to have that information pulled in as standard. So if I go back here to my dashboard as well, something that is really useful is I have this clips to film. So I've planned my videos, I know what shots I want to take, and I can then look, right, what do I need to record around the home? What do I need to do screen recordings of? And they might be for different videos, but I can just do a bunch of those in one go, and it really helps like make me more productive and speed things up. So having all these different kind of options and ways to view the same information is really, really useful. And you can have as much or as little detail on a page as possible. Now, the other thing with Notion, like I said before, I was really missing somewhere where I could house my notes and lists and things like that. And that is, you know, something else I was using Notion for. It's a very intuitive kind of note-taking app for storing information, and it makes it easily searchable. Ultimately, at the moment, my note-taking system is in a bit of a mess, I've got to say. What I mean by that is when I'm researching topics for videos, for presentations I might be giving, for content I might be creating, or just for my own personal knowledge, I'm building up a resource bank, but right now it's kind of not that accessible because it's everywhere. There's bits in Notion, there's bits in the Tasks app on the Notes app on my phone, it's in my planner, it's in my notebook, it's not very accessible. Ultimately, having everything in one place means that in the future, when I'm doing something else, I can kind of search Notion for that topic and look at, right, what information do I already have here? And stop myself kind of redoing the same work over and over again. That's my goal with this, is to also kind of house a knowledge bank within Notion from the work that I'm already doing. You can embed images, videos, and so on within your notes. You can link out to other things. You can include attachments if you want. So you can really kind of house everything in one place, as well as these kind of databases that help you manage projects and information. So I am currently working on a new content calendar within Notion that is tailored more to what I would benefit from. I'm also going to use it, like I said, for my note taking. I will be using it to kind of keep lists of recurring tasks, information I need for my business that I refer to a lot. I'm thinking about maybe using it to list expenses and kind of attach receipts so that it's easier for me to do my accounts at the end of every month, stuff like that. Stuff that I kind of have here, there, and everywhere that it would be nice to have all in one place and to be able to link to it. It's going to make it like one really, really useful resource for me when I am working on things for my business. So if you'd like to see more of this as I'm kind of setting this up, I would love for you to let me know in the comments. I would love to know what you think about these different types of software, if you've had experience with them. I'd love to see if people share my opinions or whether there's something different would work better for them. I also have a lot of projects that I'm going to be working on that aren't content, so I need to have areas for those, like product launches, like my Patreon, like the fact that I'm having my first in-person event at the end of this month and I need to create a whole market stall from scratch, get products printed, stuff like that. There's just loads of things that I want to use it for. Do not fear, I will still be using a paper planner to kind of manage my work and personal life and how they are going to kind of interact and the kind of bones of what my week is going to look like. I don't think that will ever go anywhere for me because I am a really kind of tactile person. But in terms of, you know, like I've said, being able to access this information all in one place, sometimes flicking between books and pages and where did I put that thing really slows you down. I will be setting up a new A5 discbound planner, so keep your eyes peeled for that video. And let me know what else you want to see. Do you want more of these videos? I have jokingly been told to wash my mouth out for talking about digital planning by somebody who I know and just love. And one of my patrons, Linda, she's fabulous because we are such big paper planner lovers. So I want to hear all your opinions. If you've enjoyed the video, please consider liking and subscribing because it really does help my channel to grow. And I will see you very, very soon for another video. Bye, guys.